If I was forced to only pick one gardening tool out of all the gardening tools that's out there, which one would I pick? I can only pick one. What would it be? Well, it actually wouldn't be any of these. Greetings, friends! I'm Mike the Fit Farmer, and years ago I moved my family out of the city to homestead in the country. Join me as I share our adventures of growing stuff, striving to live a healthy lifestyle, and so much more. Oh, and we live in a yurt. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment below, subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with a friend. My family and I will be so thankful. This is boxed quite interestingly. I guess it has to be. The way it's shaped. This right here is my #1 tool of choice for gardening, and it's called a broad fork. The broad fork has been an instrumental tool in my success as a market gardener. It has helped me to produce food for farm customers and my family. And over the years, I've used numerous broad forks. I just love the tool itself. And I recently got this broad fork from Bootstrap Farmer. And like all of their other products, it's heavy duty and made in the USA. And this week, I have been putting it to use. The broad fork is basically an extended digging fork, but better. It generally has 4 to 5 tines or teeth with a bar across to stand on. And this one right here has 2 handles, as most do. But some come with 1 handle. Personally, I prefer 2 handles. Oh, and also, I prefer the tines that are blade-like versus these that are like straight tubular thinner, because these blades can get in there and work a lot. and work a lot better. Whoops. So how do you use a broad fork? What is this tool used for? Well, there are basically 3 major applications or ways to use a broad fork. And the first of those ways is to aerate the soil. This works best with loose soil, and you just plunge the broad fork into the ground, gently rock it back and forth, and just slightly lift and pull it back. Then you just repeat the process. Gently rocking back and forth. Some people just like to jump on it and do all crazy stuff. I don't recommend that, especially for aerating. The purpose of this is just to get air into the soil. Not flipping over the soil in the aeration application. Just getting some air in there. Most no-till and low-till gardeners prefer the broad fork over the rototiller because the broad fork does not disturb the bacteria, fungi, and soil life like a rototiller does. And a broad fork is also much easier than double digging. Trust me, I've done that before. It'll wear you out. There's 4 major components of soil: water, air, mineral matter, and organic matter. And getting airflow in there is very important for compacted soils, clay, and it's also really important for crops like root crops, as well as crops that have a deeper root system like tomatoes. Alrighty, there we go. That one's done here. Alright, now we got some air flowing there. What we can do is we can add some compost on top with some fertilizer in there. And we can go ahead and plant some things in here, like cabbages or what other transplants that we may have ready. And the second way to use a broad fork is to plow, or for plowing. And the difference between plowing and cultivating is basically loosening the top layer of the soil. But plowing, well, even though it may be controversial for some people, it needs to be done. And you're actually going to flip the soil over and turn the soil. Work with it, because that needs to be done sometimes. That's the reality of the matter. Let's plunge the fork in, just like with aerating. Going a little deeper and actually flipping the soil over. Alright, just like that. Now, I will admit that this does stir up and bring up to the surface weed seeds. However, this needs to be done in order to loosen up the soil to grow food in it. Especially if you don't have the resources to bring in truckloads of compost. Stuff like that out of there. Generally, I will tarp my beds before I work on them. And I'll leave the tarps on for several weeks to kill some weeds. And also makes the ground ideal for broad fork. Because, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, with both aerating your garden with the broad fork as well as plowing the soil, you don't want it to be too dry and you don't want it to be too wet. You want something right in the middle there. It makes it easier to work with. And with applying the broad fork for plowing, this method can also be used for breaking new ground for the very first time. So what I do in those cases is you should mow down whatever vegetation is there before you broad fork. You're gonna mow down the vegetation as low as you can, and then after that, broad fork the area. In the cases where you have really compacted soil or heavy clay and there's just clods left over, well, in these cases, it's probably best to rototill or to use a mini cultivator to break up all those clods. Because one of the things about clay is it does have a lot of nutrients in it. However, with clay being the configuration that it is, plants can't access those nutrients without it being broken down more. So breaking up these clods help to speed up the process of growing food. Once again, especially if you don't have tons of money to bring in truckloads of compost. But the fall is an even more ideal time to broad fork. And with that, if you wanted to not have to use a rototiller, one of the things that you could do is you could broad fork and use your chickens to till and scratch and work the soil, and also add their manure in at the same time. However, I recently broad forked a bed and one of our chickens decided to get in there. But you don't want the chickens to add their manure into your garden soil right before you use it. All right, gotta get this chicken out of the garden. Come on, get out. Yeah, yeah. Can you help me out? Keep coming straight at it. Sailor's gonna come from there, I come from there. So if it's cold, so it won't come out that way on us. Yep, come straight at it. Keep coming, keep coming. Thank you. Whew. I'm liking that broad fork. It's heavy duty, but not too heavy. There's some broad forks out there that are really heavy. They're a beast. And you don't want those because you don't want something so strenuous and so heavy that it's hard to move around. But I will warn you, using a broad fork in general, even one like this, even as neat as it is, it still will give you a good workout. And now for the third way to use the broad fork. And that is for harvesting. A lot of times with root crops, when you're harvesting them, if you're going by hand, you can easily try to harvest it, pull the crop, and then the top just snap right off and you leave the root in the ground. However, with using the broad fork, well, in this case, I actually recommend 2 people for this job. 1 person to use the broad fork, and then another person to help pull up the crop as the broad fork is gonna loosen it up. So you wanna put the broad fork far enough away from the crop that you're not puncturing it and destroying your crop. You just put it in, loosen up the soil, a bit like that, go a little closer. Right, just like that. And then pull it up. Okay. Pull that out. 1 onion there. There we go. Alright. Got these a little close together when we planted them. But, yeah. There you go. Pull it on out. There we go. What we got there. Some more there. Small onions there. Even though these onions are smaller here, they do help illustrate the point that you can harvest with a broad fork, and that using a broad fork to harvest root crops makes harvesting those root crops easier. You can also use them to harvest beets, radishes, carrots, turnips, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and more. Just whatever root crops helps you, the broad fork helps you to get them out of the ground. Now, just because I said that the broad fork is my #1 tool of choice doesn't mean you have to have just one, right? Because having more than one tool means that more than one person can do a job at the same time, meaning more work gets done. And besides, if you got to choose a tool to have more than one with, why not let it be a broad fork, right? See you next time. To check out the broad fork featured in this video, simply head on over to the Bootstrap Farmer website. And in addition to this broad fork, Bootstrap Farmer has a bunch of other high quality products that are made in the USA. And most of them I have used over the years on my farm.